This video is brought to you by War Thunder. What's up, gamers? Today, we're going to be taking a look at maybe the greatest movie ever made.
Before time began, there was... Bumblebee.
The first Transformers movie was an event, man. An $150 million attempt at making an 80s cartoon cool again and bringing Optimus Prime and Bumblebee back into the spotlight. And it's such a shame that it's so hard to look back on it now. Because when most people think about Transformers movies now, they get war flashbacks of enemy scrotums and deep wangs.
Deep wang. Deep wang.
But I will die on the hill that the first Transformers by Michael Bay is actually a pretty damn good movie. As long as you watch it by itself and try to forget about the sequels where both the Autobots and cinema in general die horrible deaths. But let's not think about all that right now, okay? I wanted to take us back to 2007, before there were 4 more of these things, and also I am 5 years old. And let's just set the stage for where Transformers had been up to up until this point. It's very important, okay? Please pretend to care. So you had the original show, which was a stupid-ass 80s cartoon and toys that hit it big for a few years and then died a slow, miserable death. Then they came back big again with Beast Wars, which then died another slow, painful death. Then a couple years after that, they did Transformers Armada, which was a pretty big hit that didn't die off. But you'll wish you did watching any of the shows from this era. A lot of people act like Transformers was kind of dying before the movie, but nah, it was doing alright. But a big budget movie was what Hasbro needed to make Transformers big again. And like $700 million later, I guess they did alright. It's a good thing we're talking about a Michael Bay movie though, because this video is brought to you by War Thunder, a vehicle combat game that lets you simulate realistic military battles with as many explosions as basically any scene in Revenge of the Fallen that you can play for free. War Thunder's playable on PC or consoles like Xbox and PlayStation, where you can go up against the game's 70 million players in over 2,500 vehicles. And yes, in case you're wondering, you can basically play as Starscreams. And every vehicle is super customizable, so now you can bring your grandpa straight back to 1940 while playing as a jet that has anime stickers on it. And every vehicle is made of models so detailed you can literally see how many millions of dollars of military budget you're destroying every time you win. And if you sign up right now using the link in the description, you get a limited time bonus pack available for new or returning players who haven't played in at least 6 months across all platforms using my link, which gives you premium vehicles, the Eagle of Valor vehicle decorator, 100k silver lions, and 7 days of a premium account. Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring, and now we're gonna get back to the greatest movie of all time. Because I was a stupid idiot baby at the time, I didn't actually get to catch the 07 movie until a bit later. I got most of my nostalgia for it from the comics and Transformers the game, where I spent probably a full week of my life committing genocide on the human race as Bumblebee. And of course, Hasbro's $480 million worth of toys, which were literally everywhere at the time. Like they were selling transforming phones and blasters so you could show up to school strapped with Optimus Prime. But I only ever had this big ass Ratchet that was like 50 times the size of every other toy I had at the time, so I fucking hated it. Oh, and also this shit ass Jazz. God, my parents hated me. Everyone at some point is a survivor of Hollywood butchering something they love, so I understand why back in 2007, people finding out that this movie was only going to be taking like some names and maybe a couple ideas from the cartoon meant that it was going to be like the shittest adaptation ever.
First I was like, wow, they're making a Transformers movie. It's insane, you know? They're gonna mess that up completely. They're gonna screw that up so bad.
But I think in hindsight, for the most part, despite it being as different as it was, they kind of like fucking crushed it. Bumblebee pissing aside. Like, Transformers cartoons up until this point were good. Alright, maybe good is generous, but this was the first time I think they made it look as cool as we did in our heads when we were playing with the toys, you know? And they still had a couple winks in there for the boomers, you know? Sam is still named Witwicky after Spike. They put the Bumble Beetle in there. Peter Cullen even came back to voice Prime, even though Michael Bay wanted Liam Neeson or some shit. Transformers was back. And these movies have stuck around as the Transformers. Like, at least the first 3 movies have, like, ingrained themselves in pop culture to the point that, like, I can now probably go have a conversation with some random guy at Walmart about whether Sentinel Prime deserved it. This one alone has so many moments that are, like, permanently burned into my brain, like Scorponok jumping out of the sand, or that slow motion shot of Ironhide's sick-ass cartwheel. And the arrival to Earth scene is literally iconic, because, like, the music and the Linkin Park credits, like, dude. Anyway, let's do a quick plot recap on the off chance that you still somehow haven't seen this movie or are 7 years old. While they were trying to condense this premise for the big screen and make it more gritty and realistic, obviously they thought that the plot of Transformers was way too nuanced for Americans to understand. So they had to come up with a literal representation for why these robots were punching each other, which ended up being the Allspark, a magical cube that could bring Transformers to life and destroy the creativity of the entire franchise for the next 800 years. But it was cool to see them give so much much thought to how this premise would work if it had an animation budget higher than $5. Because like they came up with the idea of protoforms that like all Transformers were just naked alien skeletons before they scan a car. So now we get to see Optimus Prime with his titties hanging out. They even explain that they learned English from the internet, which is why Jazz sounds like he's on Xbox Live.
What's cracking, little bitches?
The fuck you say to me, you little shit?
Of course, the thing that people complain about in this movie, as they do with any Transformers series, is that we spend a bit too much time with the humans. Like, you cut straight from Blackout obliterating an army base to Sam Witwicky doing a show and tell. Like, I get it. I don't even think Bumblebee transforms until about 50 minutes in. So the first half of this is just following 3 different sets of humans figuring out what to do about giant alien robots. Of course, we have Sam, played by Shia LaBeouf before he went completely insane.
Just piss all on my face, all my features, piss on my arm.
Whose grandpa accidentally found Megatron buried in ice and had the coordinates to the Allspark imprinted on his glasses that Sam is now trying to pawn on eBay. And I don't love Sam as a character, but like Shia LaBeouf plays him so well by giving maybe the most realistic possible response to the situation.
Are you username ladiesman217?
He's a guy who spends most of his time selling shit on eBay and gooning over Megan Fox, so man did they nail their target audience.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with, females working on my engine. I prefer it, actually.
Then there's also Lennox and Tyrese from Fast and Furious, who escaped the guitar base that Blackout wrecks at the beginning.
I'm thinking I might win an Academy Award for this role. Best screaming in a movie.
Come on!
And there's Maggie and Glenn, who let us see the government absolutely shitting itself after learning that aliens are real. And the fact that Glenn isn't in any more of these is the reason they all suck, okay? Every single line that comes out of this man's mouth should have won an Oscar.
Shut up, Grandma!
And then, of course, how could we forget Agent Simmons? You know, the guy that Bumblebee... That guy. And he like shows up halfway through the movie so he can bring everyone together so they can stand in a room and listen to him dump Transformers lore on them.
And the only real lead we have so far is this sound.
I am coming.
We find out halfway through the movie that Sam's grandpa helped build an organization of Transformers fans to keep Megatron mint in box for maximum resale value. By the way, the idea that it had to be like someone's job to continually freeze Megatron for like 70 years so he didn't wake up is like so funny to me. Imagine like just constantly shitting yourself going to work every day that he's like not there anymore. I always thought that Michael Bay's unhinged humor was what brought this movie down, but there are so many stupid ass lines that I think about all the time, like Sam's crackhead parents.
Were you masturbating?
Judy. Was I No, Mom!
Or even when Bumblebee pisses on Simmons with his Bumblebeeness. My favorite joke in the movie is that the guy that Sam buys his car from has an ostrich for some reason. Like, that's so stupid, but I love it. I honestly like that the movie focuses on the human angle for so long. Like, I think if it was just about Optimus and shit from the get-go, things like the arrival to Earth scene wouldn't hit as hard, and also this movie would have cost $800 million. We get to learn about the Autobots and the Transformers at the same time that Sam does from his perspective, and I think in this movie, and in this movie only, it kind of works. The problem with spending half of the movie on Sam wanting to fuck Michaela, though, is that we don't really leave a lot of time for the actual Transformers, considering there are like 13 of them in the movie. In this one, the Autobots do like enough that you kind of get a feel for who they are, but it would have maybe been cool to have Jazz say like more than 5 lines before he gets torn in half. I don't know. One of my favorite scenes is the part where they go to Sam's house to look for the glasses, because it's like the only time you really get to know any of them, as you get to watch them be idiots for 5 minutes before we spend the rest of the movie watching everything blow up. I still kind of wish we got a little bit more time to get to know any of them, but like as a kid, you really think it mattered that Jazz said less words than I do at parties? Like, I was completely attached to every single one of these stupid robots. You bet I still fucking bawl my eyes out over his combined 15 seconds of screen time. I remember reading during production that they weren't going to have any of the Transformers speak at all, which would have sucked, but like at least Bumblebee wouldn't have sounded like a 48-year-old man.
I wish to stay with the boy.
Why are you f***ing here, man? You're so old.
The thing that actually surprised me the most about rewatching this is that Optimus Prime is kind of like a normal, friendly guy. Like, this movie has a really good take on his character before they turned him into a murderous psychopath.
Sorry, my bad.
I love the way that Optimus like leans down to talk to everyone like he's about to give them a big kiss all the time. In this one, he cares about humans to a point where like he won't even go and help Bumblebee when he gets captured by Sector 7. And I mean, it is a little bit concerning how quickly the Autobots give up on trying to save him.
What about Bumblebee? We can't just leave him to die. Bumblebee is a brave soldier. This is what he would want.
I kind of love that the Autobots are like massive dicks too. Like Bumblebee destroys an entire man's livelihood in the first 15 minutes for no reason. Optimus almost kills a bunch of Sector 7 agents, and Ironhide was fully prepared to murder Sam's dog for pissing on his leg. For the Decepticons though, because they shove like 8 of them into the movie, none of them really feel like they're actually characters. Like most of them only really have like a scene each. Starscream randomly shows up at the end of the movie just kind of because he has to, but all he does is shoot a couple jets and then dip at the end when his whole squad gets TPK'd. Blackout has like a cool scene in the opening, but then he goes out pretty sad by getting shot in the dick and balls. Bone Crusher gets stabbed in the head 2 seconds after you find out he's in the movie, but don't worry everyone, because everyone's favorite Decepticon, Frenzy, gets to be in like half the movie and has more screen time than Megatron, so that's pretty cool. But they do a good job of making the Decepticons actually threatening in this one. Like when Starscream shows up for his 2-minute appearance in the whole film, even Ironhide is like, oh shit.
It's Starscream!
Jazz is so terrified he just sits there in vehicle mode instead of helping Bumblebee, who's just had his legs blown off. Thanks for your help, man. They make like a big deal of how Blackout can tear through an entire military base, or how Brawl still doesn't go down after getting like double teamed by Bumblebee and the entire US military. I mean, yeah, they still kill half of them off, but it just doesn't feel like as mean as it does in the later movies where Bumblebee like rips Ravage's spine out of his asshole. You just don't get to really know a whole lot about Megatron aside from that he's really angry all the time, because he only wakes up from his coma for the last 40 minutes, but this Megatron scared the shit out of me, okay? And I gotta respect that the first thing he does after waking up from his billion-year coma is to shit on Starscream, who he hasn't seen in at least 80 years. That is some top-tier hating.
You fail me yet again, Starscream.
Transformers was maybe one of the least secure movie productions of all time because so much shit got out to the internet while it was still being made. Like Michael Bay's computer was hacked and the whole script got out there at some point, but the bigger one was apparently Megatron's head, which got people so mad that they actually did end up changing it. I get why at the time these designs would have been like a big departure for people, but like when you compare them to the later movies where they made the Decepticons into these like weird alien bug things that they literally just started copying and pasting, even in this one where most of them are just kind of like one flat color, they look and sound so cool. And that's all that really matters, right? I will always hold on to these designs because they would never look this cool again. Out of all of the Autobots, Bumblebee is the only one I don't like love how he looks because of his fucking scary ass eyes. And like, especially now after seeing them make him look so much better in Rise of the Beast, it's like, why did they make him look like this? But the rest of them are like perfect, even if ILM had a competition to see who could put them in the most fucked up promotional render. They did try and make it look more like the cartoon in the earlier stages, which you can see in the concept art, but then they must have realized that it looked like shit, so you can see why they changed them, even if it pissed off a bunch of 40-year-olds. I think a lot of people forget Steven Spielberg actually had quite a bit to do with the first movie, and that's definitely the reason why this one feels so different to the others, because there was effort put into it. Like that first shot you see of Bumblebee in the distance is like, god damn, there's just nothing like that in any of the later movies. But Spielberg was also the one that hired Bay in the first place, so this is all his fault actually. There was so much thought put into making this movie, and I just think it really sucks that like by the time Dark of the Moon or Age of Extinction came out, they just kind of stopped trying, because I guess they knew they could just do whatever and still make $1 billion. Like I don't even want to know the amount of time and effort that must have been put into making the CGI look this good in 2007. Like this movie is what, like 17 years old? Fuck, that hurt. And like most of the time they still look borderline real. Like if you showed a small Victorian child this movie, they would definitely believe that Bumblebee actually pissed on that guy. But then they also did like a ton of this for real too. Like it's crazy how much stuff they actually blew up. And it's why scenes like the highway chase look so good, because they nearly killed like 20 people. They actually just chuck Shia up on the ledge of a building for that scene where he's hiding from Megatron, and he was not having a good time. They built a working Frenzy puppet and half of that huge-ass Megatron statue you see at Sector 7. Like, that's real. They spent so much money on this shit. There's like over an hour of behind-the-scenes footage, and pretty much all I got out of watching all of it was that everyone is afraid of Michael Bay.
Michael, oh my goodness gracious!
And I mean, I can't blame them. Like, the first scene that they filmed with Shia was him getting attacked by dogs. So, like, they really put this poor man through it.
Thank God Shia's a fast runner. All right? Because that thing wasn't stopping. It was going to clamp down on that poor kid's ankle, I'm telling you.
That would have been the end of me in this film. It would have been the first day.
This man is not okay. Because the effects were so expensive, though, this movie is loaded with product placement. Not as bad as it would get later on, obviously, but they just went crazy with the marketing. Like, there was a Mountain Dew ad and a Burger King promotion.
A Whopper, no cheese, no onions.
And, of course, an ungodly amount of car commercials.
My car is right around the corner. I'll drive.
Or I guess they were really banking on the 7-year-olds watching this to buy a Pontiac.
What's cracking, my homies?
The only reason the Bumblebee turns into a Camaro is because they got to deal with General Motors to save a shit ton of money on the budget. Aren't movies magical?
If it's true there's an 8-year-old boy inside every man.
What? So anyway, wasn't that fun? Did you also forget about Revenge of the Fallen for 10 minutes? Because I sure tried. But I don't know, I thought it'd be fun to look back on a time when Transformers movies had a bright future and Michael Bay didn't ruin my entire life. Anyway, I just really wanted to talk about how cool I think this movie is and defend its honor from getting lumped in with these other 4 pieces of shit. I mean, Dark of the Moon is okay, I guess, but I mean, I actually haven't seen any of them for ages, so like maybe I'll do a video on all of them if you guys want me to, but they will be a lot less positive than I'm being right now. Don't forget to check out the sponsor of this video, War Thunder, and get your bonus goodies using my link for a limited time. And thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.